A couple days ago, an Arkansas trooper was fired because he performed what they call a tactical vehicle intervention, which is another fancy word for a pit maneuver, on the wrong vehicle after he engaged in a high-speed pursuit over what started as a simple speeding violation. This one is a wild one. Let's talk about it. What's up, you guys? Welcome back to Southern Draw Law. My name is James White, criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor, former police officer. So I come across this video in my last couple of days while I was in Florida, and I was just completely blown away by it. There's really not a lot to it, to be honest. It became something it never should have become, but you can get it all basically by just watching the video. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just show the whole video in its entirety. I'll cut out some dead airspace that is where the trooper's back at his car and there's nothing really happening. And then we'll come back and talk about some things that I want to draw your attention to that maybe you picked up on or maybe you didn't. Now, the video is property of the Arkansas State Police, so it belongs to the public, but the only place that I've seen that has actually published the whole video is a YouTube channel called LRH in Cash. So I got the video from their channel, and that's why you'll see the little watermark or whatever in the bottom right-hand corner and see the watermark over the screen. But it is a publicly available video. I cut out the parts of the video that we didn't need to prove our points. So without further ado, let's check out the video, and then we'll come back and talk about a couple things on the other side.
Hello, sir. Rookie Trooper with Arkansas State Police. The reason I stopped is I had you at least 92. Coming on to 630, it's a 60, so I had to do 32 over, okay?
I was rushing. I just got over. I was trying to get to my way.
Okay, I got you. You got your license on you? That looks like a license right there. Is that your license?
That's my ID. That's not my license.
You have a license? You already have your seatbelt off, or did you just take it off?
I just took it off.
Why'd you take it off for?
I took it off because I already knew you was about to pull me over.
But why would you take your seatbelt off, though? You see what I'm saying? Because if a cop comes into the window, you know, it doesn't look good.
I ain't know I was supposed to have it on, but I thought you seen me with it on.
Nah, I didn't notice.
Yeah, I just took it off.
Okay, I got you. You got any marijuana in the car?
What happened, man?
Any marijuana in the car? Because I smell marijuana. You got any weapons in the car? No. Hey, don't reach in there. You're fine. Don't reach in there. So, I asked if you have marijuana. Is it yes or no?
Do what?
Yes.
I got a blunt in my pocket, I think.
Okay. So no weapons in this bag right here? No? Okay. I got you. I'll take it. So do you have a valid license? Okay. This is just ID. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm rushing. I just got off. I'm trying to get to my wife. That's what I'm saying. She on the phone right now.
Okay, I got you. All right, I'll be right back, okay? Is the odor of marijuana in the vehicle? He gave me a small joint. I don't think that's what is causing that smell, though. Because I asked him if he had marijuana, and he started reaching in the bag to pull out something. And I said, "Don't go in the bag." He didn't answer if he had marijuana or not. And then I had to re-ask it two more times. Can you out that for me? Looking over. Because I got to do the inventory of the vehicle because I smell marijuana, so I got to check. You said what? I smell marijuana, so I got to check. Hey, go ahead and stick out for me. It's clear, man. Come on. He smell marijuana. Come here. Hey, come on, step out of the car for me. Show me your hands.
Sorry. What did I do?
I'm sorry, I got the wrong car.
What did I do?
I'm sorry, I got the wrong car. You're good. Get back in the vehicle. I'll give you a report number. I'm so sorry. Ads are now Little Rock 1022. Yeah, I'm sorry. I had a car fleeing. I thought it was y'all's car. I'm so sorry. 1022 the pursuit. I stopped the wrong vehicle. Can you give me an OCA? Comments added.
So you got to keep in mind that when the Warren Court decided Terry in 1968, they made, for the first time in history, a carve-out for the safety of the police officer conducting an investigatory detention. In that particular case, it was Detective McFadden, and he was investigating these men that he thought were on the verge of committing a robbery. So, right, the court said, yes, if you have information where you can say that an objectively reasonable police officer thought this person was armed and dangerous. And in the case of Terry, he articulated that he thought they were getting ready to do a robbery. So that would generally imply that they would have weapons. And so that became the basis for the Terry frisk. And why officer safety became part of the Fourth Amendment. And then, as we've done in our daily draw series that, we're not doing anymore, but you can look back at the other videos and see, then there was, it kind of trickled down from there. It went from Terry, then it went to Adams, and then from Adams, it went on to Pennsylvania versus Mims, and then it went to Wilson. And all of these things sort of converted the idea of this sort of precautionary officer safety stuff into a position where officer safety became almost like the highest priority to consider in the Fourth Amendment, according to the courts. Well, I want to show you a couple things. You'll probably notice that if you've watched any police videos where they are doing traffic stops, in almost every one of those videos, you'll notice that the police officer, as they approach the vehicle, will always touch the back quarter panel, the trunk lid, something like that in their initial approach. The purpose of that is that every police officer in America is trained to touch the vehicle as you approach it, because the idea is if you're shot on the side of the road and you didn't call it in, or maybe the vehicle didn't have a license plate, or you just really don't know who's in the car, you have a way to tie yourself forensically to that vehicle so that if it's ever recovered, if it's dumped somewhere, whatever, your fingerprints will be on it, or your DNA from transfer might be on the vehicle. So every police officer who's trained in America knows to touch the vehicle when they approach for a traffic stop. So I want to show you the first thing that this officer does. This sort of makes you think, well, if officer safety is not used in practice, then what is it used for? My position is that it's used now as a buzzword that works to justify bad policing that leads to bad outcomes. Because if you actually pay attention to what these guys do, they don't adhere to any sort of officer safety standards. So let's watch him approach the vehicle, and let's watch, now that I've drawn your attention to it, what he doesn't do that you may or may not have seen. Now, he's gone to the passenger side, which is good. That is an officer safety tactic itself, but he does not touch the vehicle on approach. And then watch what he does here. As soon as he approaches the vehicle, he gets in front of the B pillar. So keep in mind, you've got a couple of pillars in windows, right? The A pillar is the pillar that's in front. That would be like the post that frames out the front part of the driver's side window, right? The B pillar is directly behind that. When you are taught to approach vehicles in accordance with good officer safety principles, you are taught to stand at sort of like a 45-degree angle from the B pillar, behind the B pillar. And the idea is that, especially if you're approaching on the driver's side, that it's more difficult to aim a gun. You can't just raise it up and shoot. Well, watch where this guy sticks his whole head and body. This is called a death funnel. He's sticking his entire face, head, shoulders, upper body into the vehicle. Another thing that right off the bat you notice, whenever you conduct a safe traffic stop as a police officer, what you're supposed to do is, as the vehicle pulls up, the patrol cruiser is supposed to pull up and then move to, let's call it like between 10 and 11 o'clock. So if we're looking at a clock here, 12's at the top, 6 at the bottom, if the offending vehicle on a traffic stop is facing 12 o'clock and the patrol vehicle pulls up behind it, the officer should leave enough space, about maybe a half a car length or so, or maybe a full car length, so that the officer can angle the vehicle towards between, say, 10 and 11 o'clock. And the reason for that is twofold, because if the officer is going to approach on the driver's side of the vehicle, that angle, if a vehicle were to come along from traffic from the highway and hit the vehicle, it wouldn't necessarily go into the lane where the officer was standing. So what would, in theory, what would happen is the police vehicle would be pushed forward in a way that would not hit the officer, and it would not directly collide into the back of the offending vehicle. So the idea is it's safer, right? If you've got your vehicle angled this way, that creates a little channel for you to walk through. And the whole idea is if somebody hits you from behind, the car's going to go this way and you're going to be protected in this channel, right? Well, you don't have to worry about that too much if you're approaching on the passenger side, but the fact that you lean your whole head and face in, you're like, oh, I smell marijuana. Well, okay, yeah, you smell marijuana, but you didn't touch the vehicle. And if this driver is a real bad guy and he shoots you here, you're going to die on the side of the road. And there's a decent chance that by the time you see the gun and react and move out of the window, you still get shot, but you don't become forensically linked to the vehicle. So there's no way to sort of tie those things together and create a crime scene where somebody could be convicted of shooting you. So I'm not making an argument legally about any of this stuff. I'm just saying that the fact that this trooper was hired in October of 24 and then ostensibly went through some sort of academy training that would have taken up, say, 4 to 6 months. I mean, this guy was still on probation. I don't know how long the probationary period lasts. It's generally a year. But this guy's been out here less than a year, and he's already making these incredibly unsafe tactical decisions about how he's going to approach cars and what he's going to do. Another thing I want to draw your attention to is when he comes back up to the vehicle, where does he stand? He smelled marijuana. He's seen the guy with a photo ID that is a non-driver's license ID. Generally speaking, a person uses their driver's license for their ID. So 99% of the time, if the person has an ID that's not a driver's license, it's because their driver's license is suspended or they've never had one. So you've basically observed what you think are two crimes here. You've got a person who you believe is in possession of marijuana illegally, and you've got a person who has not a valid driver's license, or at least you have reasonable suspicion that those things are true. So both of those things should be sort of like clicking red flags in this police officer's mind about whether or not this guy is potentially a criminal, right? Now, one note about marijuana and the odor. In Tennessee, for instance, our courts have recently said, look, there's no discernible difference in smell between Delta 8, which has been legal for the last few years, and actual Delta 9 marijuana. And so marijuana, the odor of marijuana is not PC anymore in the state of Tennessee just automatically to search somebody's car, but it is a factor. Arkansas has legalized marijuana. So I would make the argument that the presumption that a person is committing a crime simply because they have marijuana is not enough to just search their car. But I still believe that the case law in Arkansas suggests that the odor of marijuana is enough to search the vehicle. And I would, if I was going to argue for the state, I would try to couple that with the behavior of the driver. I mean, if you think about it, if a person says, hey, I smell marijuana, and a person had legal marijuana, I think the first thing that that person would say is, yeah, I have a marijuana card. I'm happy to show it to you, right? If you're saying, I smell the odor of marijuana, and, you know, and they're doing the classic, what happened? And they're trying to buy time so they can think of an explanation, they're generally lying. But let me show you what he does when he walks back. When he walks back up to the car, look where he stands. Again, he didn't angle his vehicle out, best I can tell from the dash cam, so he doesn't have a protected space if somebody hits him in the back. He's standing right between these vehicles. So this person, again, marijuana, we think is probably illegal, no driver's license. This guy has given you a bunch of signal that should suggest to you that he's a person who might potentially run. So the trooper is standing directly between these two vehicles. If the driver backs up, he's hit. And if somebody smashes into the patrol car because of the fact that he didn't do his tactical maneuver when he set up the traffic stop in the first place, he's smashed between the two vehicles. So again, where is the adherence to officer safety standards in the process of this? Okay. So again, we're not talking about a guy who's been 15 years on the force and doesn't care anymore. We're talking about a brand new trooper fresh out of training. And the thing that you should all know is that more police officers die as a result of being struck during traffic stops than die in gunfire every single year. So you have to pay attention to the things that they do and then compare them and contrast them with the justifications they use for their conduct. And then you can sort of say, well, wait a minute. Your behavior in this traffic stop is completely antithetical. You can't do bad police work that leads to bad outcomes and then use officer safety and the safety of the public when the behavior on the scene was completely outside of what a person would do to adhere to good principles of public safety and officer safety. The last sort of point that I want to make is, if you watch what this police officer does, let me slow down the video and pull it up. You can see that the patrol vehicle has started to move forward. And at the time that this happens, this vehicle that's running from him actually crosses in front of the vehicle that he ultimately pits. And the officer is just clearly not paying attention because, one, the back of the vehicle is like more of an aerodynamic shape. It's not boxy like this bigger. This looks to me like a GMC, like Yukon or something like that, that he ends up ultimately pitting. The vehicle that he stopped was a Buick, and it was like a crossover compact SUV that was more bubbly and had a more aerodynamic shape to it. There's no way that any reasonable police officer could confuse these vehicles, even side by side. But look, you see the guy pull out directly in front of you while this patrol vehicle is already moving. So the police officer also was not even observing this car that he's trying to chase, because had he been observing it, he could see what we all see, which is that the vehicle crossed right behind the vehicle he ultimately pits. And it's obvious that they're not the same vehicle. But anyway, he still continues to drive up the road. And then he ultimately pits this vehicle. So my question is, why did he pit the vehicle in the first place? He's calling it out. You can hear him giving speeds. He's obviously talking to somebody, I would assume in a supervisory capacity, because he's got to report this pursuit to somebody. And he says they're at 50 some miles an hour. And then he says they're off the shoulder and they're at 30 miles an hour. It's obvious that this vehicle is trying to stop. So why did we do a pit maneuver? Why do we have a rookie trooper with less than a year on, not asking for permission from a supervisor to perform a pit maneuver, and then doing it when the vehicle is at 30 miles per hour? It's obvious that this vehicle here is not trying to evade him. And it should be obvious to him that it's not the same vehicle that did evade him. But the bad guy gets away, and he's done a pit maneuver on this random innocent citizen who immediately assumes that she's done something wrong because of the fact that this trooper now has a gun pointed at her and starts demanding that she get out of the vehicle. So it's a shit show, full stop. There's no defending it. And the best arguments that can be made still don't give you any sort of justification. But in closing, the thing that bothers me the very most about this entire scenario, it's not the officer safety failures. It's not even the pitting the wrong car. It's what the state police said when they came out and gave a press release about this particular trooper and his firing. So let's pull that up real quick. We'll look at the press release from the Arkansas State Police's website, and we'll go through it. And I want to draw your attention to a couple things about how bad this actually is when you really sort of distill it down. An Arkansas State Police trooper has been terminated after mistakenly conducting a tactical vehicle intervention on Interstate 630 on Sunday on an innocent motorist he mistook for a fleeing suspect. They're given sort of the background, right? ASP trooper saw a white Buick in Vista driving 92 and a 60 on I-630, right? Stopped the vehicle. Those are not the problem. The problem begins down here where whoever did this press release says, since 2016, ASP troopers have been involved in 4,719 pursuits, and they've conducted 1,428 TVIs. Again, tactical vehicle intervention, another fancy way of saying pit maneuver. Of those 1,428 TVIs, only 2 have involved mistaken identity of the suspect vehicle. The Arkansas State Police is committed to protecting the public while holding itself to the highest standards of professionalism and accountability. In this incident, the trooper quickly recognized the mistake, ensured the uninvolved driver was safe, and took responsibility on scene. We remain focused on continuous improvement to maintain the trust and confidence of the communities we serve. Here's the problem. 1428 divided by 4,719 is 30%. That means that in 30% of the vehicle pursuits that the Arkansas State Police has undertaken since 2016, which is bordering on 10 years now, their troopers have pitted the vehicle 30% of the time. Here's the issue with that. First of all, this case presents a perfect case study as to why we do not need to be having high-speed pursuits over traffic violations or misdemeanor drug possession. Because what happened here? The whole justification is, oh my God, if we let this guy go, he's going to go out and he's going to kill massive amounts of people. The very existence in his community, even though we didn't know about him before, even though nothing he did alerted us to any major crime, we didn't have a felony we were chasing him for, anything. It was just a traffic violation, odor of marijuana, misdemeanor possession, that we know of, right? The whole justification is we got to catch this guy right now. Otherwise, harm to the community. Well, after this, the guy went back and turned himself in. Now, I have no doubts that he had a stash of shit in that car that he didn't want the police to be alerted to, and he went and got rid of it by the time that he went and turned himself in. But the point is, what did you have to do because of this trooper's enormous mistake? Well, you had one of 3 options. You either had to let him go and just not worry about him. That ain't going to happen. You had to write a warrant on him and go arrest him later, or he had to come turn himself in. Well, this is a perfect example of how you don't actually have to catch him right then. You could go get a warrant on him, which you would have had to do because of this mistake, or he turned himself in. Ultimately, you still got the guy you were looking for. Maybe you didn't get all the dope off the street that he probably had, or the guns that he might have had, whatever. Doesn't matter. The point is, because you made this enormous mistake, you didn't have the option of catching him anyway. So there was really no reason to pursue him. There's no value in it. Second thing that I think is not obvious here that you need a little bit of critical thinking to uncover, and that is that a pit maneuver is an application of deadly force. And here's how we know that's true. Because their own news release says 1,428 TVIs, only 2 have been in the wrong vehicle. One of those TVIs that were in the 1,428 and were not part of the wrong vehicle, it was the right vehicle, was one that we all know about from 2021, where an Arkansas trooper pitted a pregnant lady who was on her way to the hospital and didn't stop. That was the right vehicle. They were trying to get it to stop. It wasn't even one of the ones that was the wrong vehicle, but that case forced them to change their policy. And guess what their policy says now? Their policy now says that you cannot pit a vehicle under Arkansas State Police policy unless you can articulate the same standard that you would use to apply deadly force: death or serious bodily injury to somebody. That's what the Arkansas State Police policy says right now. So that tells me what? It tells me that the Arkansas State Police views pit maneuvers as an application of deadly force. Well, so what you're saying is that you have an otherwise ordinary traffic infraction that 30% of your time, your troopers are escalating up to applications of deadly force. That means that the person was not doing anything dangerous enough for there to be an application of deadly force initially. And then your troopers are using a tactic that is now parallel to deadly force application 30% of the time. So that number that you see as some accolade on your part, where you've pitted 1,428 vehicles, 1,426 of them correctly over the course of the last 9.5, 10 years, those are applications of deadly force. So that means that your troopers are intentionally 30% of the time turning ordinary traffic offenses into situations that involve the risk of death or serious bodily injury to either themselves and abandoning officer safety, or to the public at large, the people you're supposed to be serving. So I know that you guys thought that this was going to be a great statement, but it really makes you look so much worse. Because why do we have a rookie trooper who feels so comfortable with performing a tactical vehicle intervention that he's done it on the wrong car here? He didn't ask for permission on the radio. It's right there in front of you. So why is that happening? Why are we conducting these pursuits in the first place? And why are we making these troopers feel so comfortable with doing a tactical vehicle intervention on their own without asking permission? I don't know. I don't have the answers. All I have is the questions. You guys let me know what you think in the comments. I hope you got something from the video. I'd like to invite you to check us out on all the socials. I'll put up a QR code here for you to scan with your phone. That'll take you to the Linktree site where you can check us out on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, and Substack. You can join on a paid tier Substack if you want to, but that's only for people who want to support the channel monetarily. I don't put anything on these platforms that people have to pay for. If you don't want to follow us other platforms, but you would like to support monetarily, I'll leave my Venmo and PayPal links both here on the screen as well as in the description. Please remember to like and subscribe and leave a comment on the video. Check out some of the other videos on the channel and leave a comment on there as well. Until I see you again, take care. Always film your interactions with the police and keep your evidence to yourself.